So basically, I'm going to say this. Having no money is worse than having a job that doesn't pay well, but at least you're making money. Because the problem is, it's just simple psychology if you really think about it. You can't buy something if you don't have like some kind of currency, unless you want to sell things or barter with people. But that doesn't always work though. And, it just takes time. But if you really dedicate your life trying to make money, you don't necessarily have to make money by other people. You can just, or I mean, working for somebody else. You can basically start your own business. And if you know how to teach yourself a skill and advertise to everybody as possible, because again, most people don't do this. That's why a lot of people are basically, depending on where they're at, they limit themselves in life and they only go based on what they already put out there. And that's why they're saying that they either want to give up or they don't want to work at all, but they're not trying anything else to counter that. So, it is what it is. If you're not trying to make money, you're basically trying to make it sound like you want everybody else to do it for you. And then it's like you're going to have businesses that might fail because they can't get enough business now because these people don't want to work. I mean, I'll tell you what, when I was 18 years old, and I'm 31 now, so this is 13 years ago, I taught myself different languages. And I found a way to advertise to as many people as possible. The two things I was telling you before. You teach yourself a skill, you advertise to as many people as possible. And this is why a lot of people don't run a successful business. They're not finding a way to make money every single day. Okay? There were days where, sure, I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy what I did, but there were days where I did want to stop for a while. But I didn't, because then I wouldn't want to do this anymore. Like they say, a body in motion stays in motion, and a body at rest stays at rest. But you have to look at it like this. I mean, the world is what you make it. And granted, at the same time, you're dealing with a lot of stupid stuff that people do to you too, like taxes or subscription fees. But the fact is, a lot of people have to understand, nowadays, it's easier to make money than what it was 100 years ago because of advertising. But you got people that would rather sit here and complain that they can't figure this out. They want someone else to do it for them. But then what makes them special at that point if they're not being unique and different than the rest of these people? Because I would have been a hypocrite too if I was to say that. Because at the end of the day, nobody was going to help me out. But I was going to have to deal with the aftermath somehow. I can't tell you how many times I've ran into people that didn't want to pay me what they thought I was. They didn't want to hire me because I was overqualified. This is what drove me to being a freelancer. Because I knew I was smart and I was willing to do it. And I've had people laugh at me and say, oh, well, why would we want to pay you that when, we can hire these people and expect them to do the same thing? Or we won't hire any of them at all and we'll just expect our staff that's currently there to just do what everybody else is already expected to do, or there's the door. Like, I've had people laugh at me. I remember when I told them, who I was and what I did, and there were times where I've gone into restaurants and I've worked as a dishwasher, as a busboy, or as a prep cook, and they made good money, at least over where I live. And I've had some people laugh at me and say, well, why would we pay you a couple dollars more even though I had 3-4 years of experience, already. And some places, they don't look at it like that. And, so it's like, yeah, you wonder why some places can't find the right people, but you also wonder why they're trying to screw people over too, because it's all about that extra money they're trying to save, right? Well, but I'll tell you what, though, it's going to be their own fault that they lose money at some point because of certain business practices, because there's people out there that can do business better than them, and sincerity. I've always said to people, listen, if you want to make money, you have to go out there. You have to take risks. That's how it's always been. Again, I don't care what time period you want to go back to. That's how it's always been. You go back 100 years ago when people were pioneers. You go back to the days where people had to travel in order to get to work. I mean, kind of like today, but even now, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have social media, they didn't have a way of advertising like this. It was all newspapers, and you should see the newspapers they had back in those days. Those were huge, and how they even wrote all that by hand. But my point is, things change. Everything changes. Two things here really. You need money to survive, but you're not going to make it just by sitting around doing nothing. Now, if you're trying to make money, but you just can't find the way to advertise correctly. That was a problem that I was having for a while. That's different. Okay. But if you're somebody who is successful and they do have a lot of money, then you know what, God bless you. You know, I hope you don't spend it all. Don't put yourself in a situation you're going to regret. But, you know, just put it away for your kids or whenever you need it. Or invest it correctly, realistically. Don't do it stupidly. But, you know, just because it's like anybody will tell you, it's easier to spend money than it is to get it. But again, if you're smart and you know and you're willing to do something you love and you can turn it into a reality, you don't have to have these problems. I mean, I see it a lot on social media, and I'm not even trying to look for this stuff. It's just there. You see a lot of people posting that they think it's impossible to make money. It's impossible to do this, but they're not doing anything. They're not trying. They're just spending all this time on the internet, expecting people just to cater towards them. And it's like, well, you know what, people, you can do anything if you put your mind to it, but you have to make an attempt. That's why a lot of people get further than some people, because you have to be able to understand your problems. And again, this is how it's always been. People have always needed money to survive or had to work hard to survive. And at the same time, they've always had to be smart about what they do. But over time, if you work hard and you're dedicated and you know how to advertise to the right people, whatever which way, whatever you're doing, however many people, whoever you are, whoever they are, and however it all works out, in the end, you're going to have more stuff, you'll have more liability, you'll have more income, you'll have more of everything, because you're putting yourself out there in such a way that you're progressing. But if you're just sitting around doing nothing, you know, you watch the world go by. And it's not as, like, maybe some people might say it's exciting, but it doesn't really sound as exciting when you think that everything eventually changes and forces you into a situation that you're not happy with, that you could have been prevented. So that's something to think about.